Yes, mate. Welcome to the first video in a new series of sitting down talking videos, mate, with Mr. Ravingface. Basically, the idea of this has come from me wanting to do a podcast for quite a long time now, and it is probably still something I'm going to do in the future. However, I realised why not start getting used to doing shorter talking videos about different types of topics, mate, that I feel like will add value to your life and that are more informative. And then in the future we'll progress the podcast, but for now we'll keep these short and sweet. Toilet paper, whiteboard pen. As you can see by the title of this video, this first episode is about time, mate. And more specifically, how are you spending your time? And even more specifically, your free time. Right, so let's get into it. So the way that I see it is that obviously different people have different amounts of free time based on their lifestyles and where you currently are in your life. Usually this is dictated by age. So if you're at college, you're probably having more free time than someone who's working a 9 to 5 full-time work. Same with university. Now granted, I know people whilst at college and university do part-time work. Sometimes they're even working 30 hours a week, which is what I used to do. And then also on top of that, you have to study. So at the end of the day, you as an individual know how much free time you have. But for the sake of this video, I'm still classifying free time as being any time that you're not at work. Because obviously when you're at work and you're working a job, you can't be focusing on doing other things unless for some reason you're working a desk job. That means you can have times of the day where there's nothing to do and you can like kind of work behind the scenes, but wouldn't really recommend doing that. I'd stay loyal to the work that you're doing, always give it 110%. The time we're talking about is when you're not at work. Hey Siri, how do you spell social?
Social. S-O-C-I-A-L.
So then what we go into is different categories that you might want to divide your... So then what we go into is different categories that you might want to divide your free time into. So the way that I categorize these is your passion. We're going to go into detail in each of these after this kind of initial recognition of them. Your passion, social, relationships, your hobbies. Do you know what? For now, we're going to focus on those categories because they're probably the most important. And then what we're going to go into is if you're actually utilizing your free time in the right way, if it's adding value to your life, and if potentially you should think about using your time differently and doing other things. So something that I see too many people complaining about is saying that they just don't have enough time to pursue things that they want to do or to invest into all of these different areas of their lives. Now, what you have to realize is that actually everyone has the same amount of time. We all have 24 hours in the day, and there's millions of people that have been able to divide out their time effectively and become successful across all areas. If they're able to do it, they've had the same amount of time that we have, so why were they able to and you're not? That's the first thing you've got to realise. Don't complain about not having enough time and enough hours in a day. There's physical evidence of people that have managed to make it work. We're no different from them. So starting off with passion, and for argument's sake, let's say that we're working full-time, because this is probably what it's going to relate to most. I'm working full-time and I think this will help most people. So if you're at college or university and you're not working, then just imagine that you have to give 8 hours a day to studying and your university degree. So we're talking about the time outside of that. So I say that everyone has 8 hours. Now, the reason I've come to this conclusion is because you should prioritize sleep over everything. I read a book by Matthew Walker and it's incredible. Highly recommend reading it, and to be honest with you, you'll never take sleep for granted again. You'll stop worrying so much about other stupid little things that might impact your health and realize that the most important thing is sleep. So 8 hours of sleep, and then we're at work for 8 hours because 9 till 5. That leaves 8 hours left in the day. So for me personally, I like to get up early and go to sleep early, but if you personally would rather wake up later and then go to sleep later, you're still going to have the same amount of time. Granted, you're sleeping for 8 hours. Obviously, if you sleep for 9 hours, then it's going to have an impact on this. Right, 8 hours. Now, a lot of you are thinking, well, yeah, that's all well and good, but I have to commute an hour to and from work. So actually, I only have 6 hours. Fine, that might be the case for you. However, just because you're in a car commuting to work doesn't mean that you can't utilize that time. So we'll get onto that later, but for now, we're going to focus on your passion. So I think it's really important that if you have something you're passionate about, and don't worry if you don't, but if you do, you obviously spend time towards this. One, because you're passionate about it, you enjoy doing it, it's probably going to make you feel good, it's going to make you feel happy, less stressed, and just in general will be adding value to your life. Two, chances are you're going to want to turn this passion at some point into some form of income. Not because you're fixated on money, but more so because you obviously want to live a life where your work is something that you love and enjoy, and if turning your passion into your work means that that's what you're going to get, then obviously that's what you're going to want to do. So if you're not investing time into your passion, then how can you expect to get to a point where you can grow it to earn money from? You can't just sit there and say, oh, I'm really passionate about this, and let's just take online coaching, for example, for fitness or for mindset, for anything across life. You can sit there and be like, I'm really passionate about helping people improve their physical fitness. But then talk doesn't really mean anything unless you're actually doing physical actions to move yourself towards that goal. I.e., maybe offering your services for free and getting results and then promoting those results to other people, getting qualifications, just spending time on your passion to eventually turn it into something more. So it's very, very important that you're doing that. And for me personally, so I'll use personal examples throughout this video to try and make it more relatable and also just to put it into a bit of context. I actually have a few passions and it does get a little bit more complicated to try and obviously utilize my time. My passions are creating content online, obviously, so on YouTube videos. I'm getting into, have been into for the last year now, DJing and improving my DJ skills, and that's something that I'm going to want to devote more time to moving forwards. And then kind of things that just come off from that. So I'm passionate about creating videos, so I want to look into enhancing my skills when it comes to editing, videography, photography, all things that enhance essentially the overall passion for making online content. And then with music, I'm passionate about finding new music, listening to music, recording mixes, practicing, watching videos, YouTube videos on how to get better, lots of learning. So those are things that I'm passionate about and things that I prioritize spending time on. So the next was social. Now, social is actually really important, and anyone that's one of these entrepreneur grinders that's gonna sit on their own in a room for 8 hours a day of the free time that they have, not socializing, interacting with their friends, people of the outside world, that to me is absolutely ridiculous. Like, I don't care if you're all about the hustle and the grind, you're also here to live your actual life, and it just blows my mind that some people are promoting that you should forsake social activities to just basically grind away on certain things behind the scenes. Because do you really want to get to a point when you're maybe 40 years old and maybe you have managed to build this multi-million-pound business through sitting on your own in a black room for however many hours a day. But then you reflect on the past 40 years and think, what else have I got to show for my life? Like, yeah, I've got all this money, but what experiences have I had? Where have I been to? What places have I seen? To me, experience is everything, and I get my best experiences from being with my friends and experiencing festivals and going out and just in general having a good time going for food with people that I'm very close with. So yes, being social is a massive part of life and enhancing your social skills, which will inevitably help you in other areas of your life. But you do need to find the balance between what social events will add value to my life, which ones are going to be good, compared to am I just going to use all of my free time sitting in a park with my mates drinking alcohol. Like, there's a difference, do you know what I mean? There's a difference between being social and really surrounding yourself with like-minded people, doing things that are really great and experiences, than just sitting on a swing drinking cider. Okay, so then the next category that we have is relationships. Now this is relationships across family, friends, girlfriends, boyfriends, all come into this category. So obviously, kind of as an extension from social, it's so important that you're spending time with your parents, with your brothers, with your sisters. These are people that have been there since day one and they're going to be there till the end. Some of you might be different with your family situations. However, for the most part, you should honestly really prioritize making sure that you do give time to your family. They're so important and they're going to be the people that are there for you all the time no matter what. And just especially your parents, you might not realise it and you might not have actually taken the time to think about it, but you were a baby, a child, a teenager, all throughout your past 20 years or however old you are. They looked after you and they did everything for you. Now, that's insane, and at the time you don't really realise it and you might not even remember it. In fact, most of the younger years you won't remember. But you have to think that you made it to this point, so they've therefore looked after you effectively. And they fed you, they've washed your clothes, they've given you a healthy home to live in. When you were growing up, going to sports events, etc., or if you were into sport or whatever your hobbies were, they drove you to all of those events, they had your friends around for dinner, sleepovers, everything. They literally did everything for you. So the least you can do now is give them time and spend time with them, instead of just sort of being like, safe, cheers mum and dad, probably not really going to see you much anymore, appreciate everything you've done for me, but that's it, I'm gone. That's not how it should be. So family, 100% really important. Friends, yeah, it ties into social. Just be very careful with who your friends are, and are these people that you should be surrounding yourself with. And I'd say that's one of the most important things. I do believe you as a person is a subject of the 5 people that you spend your most time with, especially your friends. So surround yourself with like-minded people, and if you have friends that at one point maybe were a good person and now not so much, obviously it's good to try and help them, but to a certain extent, if they really have gone a different path and a different route, then you might just have to accept that you guys aren't really the same anymore, and that's fine. So be very careful with who your friends are. If you've got good people in your life, surround yourself with them, spend time with them, very important. Make sick memories of them, amazing experiences, and just have something to show for your life by the time you're 40 to look back on. Right, then the final one is partners, so girlfriends, boyfriends, etc., further down the line. This one is difficult because it really depends on what stage in your life you're at and how big your ambitions are and how big your passions are. So obviously for me recently, I had to make a tough decision, and it still is really difficult. Like, I have some days that are harder than others, but for the most part, it had to be done. And the reason is that if you have a partner, they're a bit different, obviously, to just a friend, and you'll spend a lot of time with this person. And in fact, you have to start to think about, am I spending too much time? Am I investing too much time into it? Am I taking away from these other areas of my lives that I was giving time to, however now feel like I can't because I've got a relationship? And this is where it gets complicated, because if what you genuinely really want is to give your time, most of it, to the relationship, and you're happy to leave everything else and put it on the back seat, awesome. If that's what makes you happy, then do it. However, don't do it and regret not pursuing other things. Don't just settle because that's what everyone does. Genuinely, so many people live a lie. Like, they'll get to a stage in their life and look back and reflect and think, what if? Or I could have done more, I could have been more, I didn't reach my full potential, if only I tried. You don't want to get to that point. You honestly don't want to get to that point. So really assess where you're at. If you've got a relationship where the balance is awesome and you see them for however many hours a week, but you're still able to give to everything else, they're very understanding of your lifestyle, they're supporting you, etc., then that's awesome. But it really does play into how much stuff you've got going on the side. So you've got to be very smart about, you've got to really make sure that you make the right decisions and do them for the right reasons and do them for yourself, instead of just living a life to please other people or because it's what most people do. Okay, finally, we're going to talk about hobbies. So, kind of, I guess these link into passions as well. Sorry, I like to have things to hold. These tie into passions as well. Chances are your hobbies are also your passions. But then at the same time, for me, my hobby is going to the gym. I enjoy training and weightlifting. I'm also getting into running. Now, I have a passion for it, yes. However, it's not the same as my passion for creating online content. So whilst I integrate it in, I don't want to be a personal trainer. So my hobbies are external. So I guess this is also going to tie into how you spend your time. So one of the things that I think everyone should be implementing into their life at some point in their weekly routine, daily routine, is some form of physical activity. Now, whether this is in the form of a sport or actually going to the gym or just being outside, there's so much research out there that shows how important it is to be physical and be active. Not be physical, don't go and fight someone in the street, but how important it is to have physical activity in your life. It's insane, and especially mentally as well as physically, it's really, really good for you. So if your hobbies allow you to do that and it ties in, and that's fantastic. If your hobbies are actually sitting inside and playing computer games, for example, then that's great to a certain extent, because if that makes you happy, then that makes you happy, and potentially it could be your passion as well, and you might want to try and make money from that in the future, which is possible. Just be careful with how much time you are spending inside behind a computer screen. Like, if you're into video gaming, then don't spend all of your 8 hours watching or playing video games when there's a whole world out there that you can go and explore and appreciate. And I think everyone should take time to go out for walks, explore new places. Honestly, the world is insane, and you don't need to go very far to get to places that are just so freaking beautiful that when you're there, you just feel present in the moment. And you don't often get that, and you won't get that if you're sat inside behind playing Call of Duty. So definitely make an effort to go out and just go for walks and appreciate the world and be present in the moment. So going back to the commuting time and utilising time that you think is dead time to a certain extent. No time is dead time. So in your commuting time, you can be listening to music. Now, that might sound silly in the sense that, oh yeah, how is listening to music a really good use of my time? Well, it all depends on your mindset towards what you're actually doing. So if you're present and you're conscious and you're like, I'm driving to work, but I'm listening to music that I like and I enjoy listening to it, so therefore this isn't necessarily a bad use of my time because I'm happy right now listening to these songs. for me, it goes in a little bit deeper than that, because where I'm trying to be a DJ, music is a massive part of that. So I'm always listening to music, listening to songs, thinking what songs might work with other songs, how songs sound, trying to find new music, listening to other people's mixes. So for me, the music side of it actually has a lot more value. Now, the other things you can do are you can listen to audiobooks, which is obviously a ridiculously good use of your time when you're commuting. You can listen to podcasts across all areas of life. There are literally podcasts for everything. So whatever you're into, I guarantee if you just Google search, you'll be able to find a podcast on it. And you can listen to it and you'll probably find it very interesting. So if you're listening to podcasts and audiobooks, then you could technically be doing the same as reading 2 hours a day, which I'll get onto reading a bit later on, but it's the same as that. Or you could literally just sit there and not do anything if you don't want to listen to anything, but just be present in that's what you're doing and you're choosing to do it, and just utilize that time of silence to just consume in your thoughts, and maybe just think about how you're going to structure your time, your other time, and just be a bit more productive with it. So if you're going in with a negative mindset and thinking, oh yeah, every day my commute to work is worth nothing, well then that's on you, because there's nothing you can do about it. And if you're going to adopt that negative mindset, then it's going to have a negative impact on pretty much most of the other things that you do during the day. So the other thing I want to say is I've recently been getting into reading, and I can't recommend reading books enough, whether you want to read fictional or non-fictional. It's just such a good way to disconnect from what's going on around you and just really, I don't know, it's hard to explain. Like, reading a physical book is different to listening to audiobooks, and the value that I feel like it has added to my life, it's been ridiculous. So I usually like to read before bed because I find that helps me get to sleep a bit better. It's not good to be exposing yourself to light before sleeping. But yeah, reading books is definitely a good use of your time. So those are all the categories and everything that I think you should take into account when you're trying to divide out your free time. And let's say of these 8 hours every single day, I think personally you should try to spend, I mean, you can break it up in 8 hours a day, or you can break it up like across the week, etc. But for me personally, I'd say that I spend 2 hours a day doing some form of physical activity, or spend 2 hours a day in the gym. I spend 1 hour of that walking on my lunch break, listening to podcasts. I spend probably about half an hour reading, and then another half an hour potentially just being present and going for a walk and not really doing anything, but just allowing myself to think. So that's 4 hours already. And then I'll use the other 4 hours to maybe, obviously you need to do things like make dinner and everything, so take an hour out for doing all that sort of stuff. And then I have 3 hours, so I probably spend 1 hour editing, I spend 1 hour maybe on music, and then I spend an hour maybe watching YouTube videos, and all of which is adding value to my life. But at the end of the day, it's on you how you choose to divide out your time, and I just want you to be a bit smarter about how you're doing it, and think about when you're doing things, just think to yourself, is what I'm doing right now adding value to my life in some way, shape or form in any of these categories, or could I be doing something else that will be adding more value to my life? Just think about that. And the other thing I would say is you'll go through times of your life when you will be able to give more to certain areas of your life, and you will have to give more to certain areas of your life. For example, you might have family that gets sick, and obviously if you've got family that aren't very well, then your amount of time that you're going to want to give to family is going to rocket up, and you're going to have to take that from other areas of your life. However, at the same time, you might have time off from work, or you might have various opportunities. Like for me, if I had a DJ set coming up, then I'm going to want to prioritize putting time into my DJ practice, and I'll take that away from other areas. So just don't worry too much about if you have times in your life when not everything is equal, because that happens, it's a part of life and you just need to manage it. Same with relationships. I've had to pull away from relationships right now, but I know that in the future, when I've established myself and I'm not working a full-time job and can do all of this in my 9 till 5 time, then I will have more free time to give to relationships, etc. So that's going to be it for this video. This is the first of the series. I have not planned this video, so I hope it's gone well. I hope it's added value to your life. I hope you like this setup. This is my living room. My parents have made it look pretty nice. Got lots of natural light here, so I'm excited to continue this series. If you've got any suggestions for maybe topics that you'd like me to talk about, then put them down below. I can talk about books and books that I've read. I know there's a lot of people that want me to talk about that, so any ideas, I'm welcome to all of them. Bit different to my usual videos, but I want to make this more personal, give you guys a little bit of an insight into my mindset, what I do with my life, and I hope you've enjoyed it. I'll see you in the next one, mate. Cheers.